Turning points change the course of our lives, whether it's a big decision, overcoming an obstacle or tragedy, or taking a leap of faith. These stories of inspiration and resilience are what Turning Point is all about. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Turning Point. I'm your host, Priya, and this week I have the pleasure of speaking with Erfan Nouraee. He is a passionate and innovative inventor. He's only 19 years old, and his turning point came when the first invention he made received approval from a group of universities. Just 1 year later, he developed his second invention, and that one was recognized with a bronze medal from the United Nations. Erfan, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Priya. Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here and talk about this story. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. And I have to congratulate you, first of all, on this big award that you received from the United Nations. Such a great achievement. So tell me about your invention.
Thank you so much. So that was actually my second invention, and I came up with that in 2018. And it was quite a life-changing experience for me, like from getting into science and then coming up with this idea to remove noises from optical signals. And then it caught the attention of many investors, a group of universities, and also I shared the idea with top organizations like United Nations. So the idea behind it is to remove the noise from optical signals and then to get the quality back for the signal. Suppose you have a picture or you have a text and you want to send it to a friend. So if we want to send a picture with via light and optical signals, we have to remove the noises. And this invention can remove those noise with lower cost and with higher quality and with high resolution. And then manufacturers can generate and produce this device with lower cost and with the best method in the market.
Thank you for kind of giving us some context, because I know this is a very complex concept. So how would you, for somebody listening who might wonder, how would I experience this in the real world? How would a manufacturer use this?
Yeah, so in industrial level, how we find, so I can give you a brief about how we found the problem and then how we can use it. So actually, we the problem was about the industry. So in industrial level, the problem is we actually the problem is that we have to remove the noise from optical signals to filter out those noises from a picture, from a voice. So this can be used in aerospace. This can be used in many industries that we are using high frequency light waves, and it totally depends on which industry it's going to be used.
It seems like it's something that can be used by a lot of different industries. I'm really interested to hear about how you found out you won. I mean, it's such a big honor from the United Nations. So tell me about that moment.
Yeah, it was. I was shocked, and I usually dreamed to get this award, and so when because it was a tough race, so it has some preliminary results. Like for example, so when we entered, we had to have patents, we had to have previous awards. So even the entrance was truly hard, and we should have some kind of inventions like in our resume. So after that, it took about months to present it to the jury, from 35 judges around the 30 countries, and about 650 inventions around 35 countries, and then after months, we got bronze medal from after United Nations organizations, IFIA. They sent an email, and I was really shocked to see that. It was a great moment.
Yeah. So after also there were different rounds, and then it was the email. Then you found out you won.
Yeah, they announced, like the jury announced that like sustainability, it depends on different kinds of criteria and aspects like sustainability, green technology, and they announced how the jury is checking the inventions by these criteria. Yeah, after each round, so they sent us email and then let us know which round we are.
Okay. You're 19 years old. I know I mentioned this in the introduction, to come up with 2 inventions that have received so much recognition at such a young age is pretty incredible. Yeah, so let's go back to your childhood for a minute before we get to your turning point. How did you become interested in physics in the first place?
Yeah, actually, it was, I had a very bizarre childhood, and it was a really interesting childhood for sure. So how I take garbages and stuff at home around me, and then like my hot glue gun, and then glue those random household items together to make inventions, and that was my first turning point, and that was how I started. And of course, they never worked. Like those inventions that, like starting when I was 8 years old, I made them. Of course, they never worked. But the idea of taking the resources around me and piecing them together to make something better, came naturally, very naturally. And that was the first turning point to how to get into science, because I was very much reading at very young age, learning, watching documentaries, scientific books. I loved science, and at that age, even I got into many scientific fair, like science competitions, as my parents pushed me and told me that you are so interested in science, because science I had a lot of questions about nature, about how things work. I remember I had a book. Its name was How Things Work. I loved that, and I read about it. I also have it now, and I kept that in my archive. And so that was the idea for taking the resources and to affect people's lives. The whole idea for tinkering and to affect people's life with hands-on experiences, not just reading books, just to go to hands-on experiences. And that was my first turning point.
So as you started, this is so neat, like you started kind of piecing together whatever you had around you.
Yeah.
So when did you first start, using circuits or actually starting to have the materials you needed to make something?
My parents asked me to participate in science fair competitions in school, in my local science fair competitions. That was really really exciting for me. Oh my God, I had to make many posters. Even we had art, because art was an important focal point there, because we had to have the combination of art and science into making a great science fair participation. And then young people came to me and asked me, how did you come up with this or this kind of thing? So that was how my parents pushed me to attend these competitions. And then my interest grew more. And then
that's really neat. It sounds like they really kind of fostered that interest in you from a very young age. We talked about your second invention because it's the most recent. You just received an award for it, but it's really your first invention that became your biggest turning point. So tell us about that invention and that moment for you.
I came up with my first invention. I created that, and that was a photon detector system. It had the capability to detect the photoelectron particles, because I usually read about it in physics book, and it was really interesting to how we can really detect this kind of radiation in physics. So I followed that. First I filed my I followed my idea in a patent office. So and then I consult with professors. I got to universities to analyze the problem better and better. And then I made the device, prototyped it, and sent it for science competitions. And attended these competitions, and I got more active in for my first invention. Actually, that time was really important for me because that was how how the inventing things become tangible to me, and how I touched the world, this world more professionally.
You have mentioned your parents a few times here. How have they contributed to where you are today?
Yeah, exactly. So they just pushed me, like because when you're not failing enough in innovation, you're not innovating enough. Because this is a quote from Elon Musk. So we have to we have to failure is a component here. It is a big factor in the game in this kind of business. So we have to fail to find out which component is missed. So we have to fail to find out what part we should add, to find out what part we should cut, or failing is very important. So many young people may not know that failing is important. They may give up in that. So I was also like that. So my parents told me, and they pushed me in those times, that failure is a component here. You have to have this component to continue to innovate, to advocate for what you want. And that was also one of my biggest turning point, that I learned that why failure is important in innovation.
I really like this idea of framing failure as an opportunity to learn and to make things better. And I think that's so great that your parents instilled that in you at such a young age, because I think you're right. I think a lot of times it's easy to get discouraged, right, when something doesn't work the way you want it to. And I really appreciate your message to young people. You are still very young, but you were very young when this first invention came out. So and you would have been talking to people who were older than you. How did they react when they saw what you had created?
Yeah, so they were really they were super excited about it, and they asked me how it works, and I usually have some kind of explanation for it, like to tell them how it works. And it's interesting. This is something new, and because it has patent, it was not existed before. So the world of invention just means that we don't have this kind of device before. So we are working on this, or to make it better for humanity, to affect people's lives, and and all of it is to solve world entrenched problems. It can be even a simple problem, or even a really entrenched problem, but it's just all of it means to solve the problem. And sustainability is a very important factor in innovation, because if it should be sustainable for our cities, for our communities, to have that support for young people.
Yeah, I think it's really great that sustainability is such a big part of your mission as well. Tell me about how that fits into the two inventions that we talked about today. How is sustainability part of what you created?
Yeah, exactly. So we used sustainable nanofiber in our fiber technology, and then we made the sensor, the exact sensor from sustainable materials. So we made sure that everything is contributing to that green purpose we have for our planet. And then we are negotiating with many partners, like Government of Canada, for because one of its factors, maybe it's interesting, it can be used in rockets because of the high frequency the high frequency waves we have in rockets. One of its functions is to be used in rockets, and the other one is in industries like manufacturers and other industries that we have high frequency level. And yeah, it's really interesting for myself to continue to work on it for like to make a divisional invention, like an invention from an invention, like two inventions from an invention. We call it divisional invention.
This is so fascinating, I think, because it's a world that most people don't know much about, right? This world of inventing things. You mentioned patents. I was going to ask you, so, after you get an award like this, then what's the next step to seeing it used? And so you answered a little bit there. So do you have to get a patent? Is that the next step?
Exactly. So it depends on their, like, if there are a lot of inventors to have an idea or to work on it. The first part is to file their invention. This is very important because of the obviousness, some protocols that they have to adhere to. So for the next levels, so if you want to participate into competitions or into like any competitions you want or into commercializing it, so yeah, you have to patent the invention, because otherwise it can have some disputes with other inventors. So you are actually saying that you have priority with your idea, and nobody else has that criteria. So this is kind of showing that you are the first person who came up with this idea.
You mentioned your parents being big supports. Do you have any professors or teachers or mentors that have really supported you along the way too?
Exactly. My professors, like for analysis of the problem, I asked some of my professors, and because I actually had the idea was but I asked my professors to for the analysis of the problem, because in this world we have to find the problems and to find creative solutions, and it's all about designs, art. Even art, we have the combination of art and engineering. As I said, it's very important to be visually appealing, not just to be invention. It should be fitted to the market, so people should like it. People should love it. They because they want to buy your product. So it should be something that is visually appealing. Beside it works well to solve some kind of a problem. It can be as simple to a hard problem. So my professors, I actually but most of it I worked on it alone, because it's usually better to work alone, because sometimes the idea can propagate it or something. This can happen. Otherwise, if you get your patent, if you have secure patent, so that's okay. You can talk with them.
What other advice would you give to someone who is an aspiring inventor, or who maybe has an idea but isn't sure what to do with it?
Yeah, so my first advice is to minimize their distraction. So, and then to work on many problems, to find the problems, and read books. Just they said, like opera, like many leaders say, readers are the leaders. So they should read a lot to find and analyze the problems. It is indispensable for this. For inventing an innovation world, and then they can file their idea, and they may fail in what they are presenting, but they shouldn't give up. Never ever give up. Just continue to work on it, and to work and make it better, and then present it to professors, even locally in science fair projects. And then higher level, higher organizations. And for the last part, one side of it is to have a good idea, is to have an idea that is fitted to the market, and people like it, and getting to competitions, getting to science fair projects. But another side of the coin is to monetize it. Is monetization is playing pivotal role here because they have to monetize their invention to have that effect in societal or economic factors in society. So we have two sides of it,
Yeah, I mean, these are things that I didn't really think about before, like the fact that what you said about kind of you have to keep some of the ideas sort of close to yourself because you don't want to have to worry about someone taking them, but also then you eventually need the input from other people.
Exactly.
And then, of course, the element of failure, I think, is something we don't think about often because we don't hear about a new invention until it's ready, right? So we don't always think about all of those pieces that come together. So yeah, this is just really it's really insightful. I love learning about new things and a kind of a different way of creating that I never thought about before. So speaking of which, what are you working on now? What's next for you? Or can you tell us?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm actually trying to be now. I'm trying to be. I really try to be a voice for other young people who have youth-led innovations. Sometimes I saw many of them are not supported enough, and some of them may give up. But I'm doing my best to be a supportive person to those young people, and to serve them, by hosting meetings and in like these days it is actually virtual, but I host meetings and invited many of them to the meeting, and they share the problems and we exchange ideas, and I do my best to give the information I know, to give the knowledge to them, and to serve these young people. I know they have that talent to monetize their ideas. So I will do my best to be the voice. And then I'm working on my third invention, and it is actually a divisional invention again from my second invention. So it's kind of a divisional invention. It's part of it. And so sometimes we update the previous invention to a better invention. Or sometimes we make programs, we make applications, and for our startup company, it's Nouraee Industries. So we are working on it, Ltd. So we're working on it to make it better. I'm trying to be better at entrepreneurial works. it's not easy, but I'm trying to fit into that, and like the inventing world, entrepreneurial world is like business. We have to sell it, just buy and sell. It's all about finding investors, incubators, and then share your ideas with them to sell. So now we actually have some contact with government of Canada for some of as in terms of investing and other incubators, and we hope we can do the commercialization for the next year. I hope we can do that for the next year.
Well, that is all very exciting. And I wonder, as you reflect back on your turning point on that first invention, what are you most proud of that has happened since then?
Yeah, so that time it was really, it was a combination of failing and, winning, failing, winning. So it wasn't, easy, but that was tinkering and hands-on experience that I usually love that. And I had actually some pressure. I have to say this. I had some pressure from school, because I also had to do my schoolwork, and so it's sometimes managing this and the management or handling between schooling or your passion, because maybe we have to implement a better, more hands-on experiences for Canadian youth today, because tomorrow world needs them. So we have to work on the curriculums that need more tinkering and hands-on experiences. But actually, most of it was an active passion, not a passive passion. I was trying to entertain myself, more actively. Like what I just wanted to be with that, what I just had a passion in that, and I have to say that my parents here played a very big role, and I have to really thank them for that. So they allowed me to continue in this in this, and they never discouraged me. They always encouraged me to continue and to make it better, to best invention that really solve people's problems. Just a quick, I remember from, I was 9 years old, and my mother asked me, I saw my mother like crying things, and she was chopping onions, and I saw that, and I immediately ran off to my room and took two fans with a goggle and connect the fans with the goggle. I was just 8 years old, I think. And then make a goggle, special safety goggle for my mom, so she could use it. It has fans, so when she was chopping the onions, and she said, "Wow, how did you do that?" It was my first thing that I made, and I told her, "Yeah, I love tinkering." So, and she called my family members and told. That was really those turning points for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of when you realize that your mind works in a different way, right? You saw this problem, you thought about all the materials you had, and then you figured out.
I really made origamis for and we sent it also for NASA, and they sent us a letter and asked us for an admission in one of the elementary school in United States. And that was really cool, really cool it was a really encouragement for me from NASA, from a great organization. So I also had that letter. That was really a turning point.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You're only 19 years old. You've had so many turning points already. I'm very happy that you came and shared your story, and also your encouragement for other young inventors out there. So thank you so much. We wish you all the best, and we look forward to following your career and seeing where you go next.
Thank you so much, Priya, for your support. And I would like to thank your incredible team for supporting young people and their youth-led innovations in Canada, and with your great podcast. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And again, thank you for sharing your story. We love hearing from inspiring young people. And hey, for all of you watching and listening, if you know an inspiring young person or just an inspiring person in general, you can always reach out to us. We love hearing about your turning points too. You can find us at turningpoint@priyasam.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a comment. Please subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever else you listen to podcasts too. And until next time, take good care of yourselves and of each other.